Hello, my name is Barbara Kay, and on behalf of my co-host Susan Pertnoy and the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I'd like to welcome you to our program, Mosaic.
Our special focus on Mosaic today is the professor at Union College in Schenectady, New York. He's an author and a lecturer, Dr. Stephen Berk. We'll be back with our program and our special guest after this brief message.
Federation and our overseas partners support the resurgence of Jewish life in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union. We also provide humanitarian assistance wherever Jews encounter poverty and crisis. Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together. Our Jewish Federation has accomplished so much, and still, needs keep growing. You can help us do even more. Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
Welcome to Mosaic in Florida, Professor. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, I have to tell you, I was listening to some of your YouTube videos in regard to the teaching of your classes. And one of the things that you said, which was so interesting to me, was that, and I think it's so true, that Auschwitz came about because of anti-Semitism, or anti-Semitism brought about Auschwitz, but indifference made it happen.
Yes, I'm afraid to say that that is absolutely correct. What Edmund Burke said about in the 19th century, I thought right, the 18th century, that the only thing for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. That is correct. Had people spoken out, people of authority, ordinary people, not only in Germany but elsewhere, I think a fairly large number of people could have been saved, and in fact, one can make the case that the Holocaust might not have taken place. That I'm not sure of. I believe in the role of personality in history. So far, to the extent, for example, no Hitler, no Nazi accession to power. No Hitler, no Second World War, no Hitler, no Holocaust. But there were times that people could have spoken out. People like the popes, for example, or the Pope Pius XII. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, spoken out and actually done things at an earlier period of time, then we might not be having a conversation about the Holocaust.
Do you have an opinion as to why they didn't speak out? Do you have a theory?
The conventional theory is, well, then I wouldn't put the conventional theory. Let me put it this way. If, God forbid, Adolf Hitler walked through this room, or the spirit of Hitler walked through this room, and I said, mein Herr. The British always used to refer to it as Herr Hitler, before the war.
Hitler.
Herr Hitler, they used to call him Herr Hitler before the war. And I said, Herr Hitler, what were the primary war aims of the Third Reich? And the answer probably would be, well, we wanted to dominate Europe, the Aryan race, but we wanted to make Europe Judenrein. We wanted to make Europe clean of Jews.
Clean of Jews, yeah.
So the real issue here is a fundamental asymmetry. On the part of the Nazis, the murder of Jews took precedence over almost everything else. For those who were not anti-Semites, who were sympathetic to the Jews, who in fact might have wanted to help the Jews, saving Jews came low down on a list of hierarchical issues, low down on the hierarchy. So, for example, in the 30s, when Hitler is getting going and the Nuremberg laws are coming, the United States, Great Britain, and France, they're all wrapped up in the Depression. That's the major issue. The Gallup polling organization is asking the American people from 1936 on, what's the major issue confronting us? Putting the unemployed back to work, which of course one should not minimize that.
Right.
That's the problem. The Nazis are moving everything they can do. You get this, for example, I don't want to spin this out, you see it in Hungary, for example, in the spring and summer of 44. Here, the Red Army's coming from the east. We've invaded Normandy on June 6th, we, the British, French, and the Canadians. The Nazis, you would think, beleaguered on two fronts. Nonetheless, hundreds upon hundreds of trains are going to bring Hungarian Jews to Auschwitz. They will make the desire the single-mindedness, the focus on exterminating the Jews is absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, but where does this pathological thing come from?
That's, that's the limits of the historian. I can tell you what Hitler did. I can tell you why he did some things. I can tell you what the consequences are. I can tell you how he did it. But the fundamental problem is why Hitler was Hitler. That's a tricky business. Look, even if you put one of us on the couch before a psychiatrist now, the psychiatrist is going to have difficulty figuring out what is it that makes us tick. When you're dealing with someone who's dead, you're dealing with someone, who you really don't have much contact with, it's very, very hard. The theories go back to the childhood. How much would his history would have been different had he been accepted into the art school in Vienna, and so on. He's got a brutal father, beats him up all the time. We all know this. But the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, there are people whose fathers beat them up. They don't turn into Hitlers. So we honestly do not know why Hitler became Hitler. But what we do know, another asymmetry. In the 30s, Nazi Party members were asked, why did you join the Nazi Party? And the results were very interesting. Anti-Semitism was not a major issue for them. They joined the party. They thought Hitler was a great leader. He would save Germany from communism. He would reinvigorate Germany, make Germany a great power again, and repudiate the Treaty of Versailles, and of course deal effectively with depression. Anti-Semitism was low down. But for Hitler, anti-Semitism was the major issue. For Hitler, the Jews were responsible for virtually everything that was evil. And by 1941, the rhetoric is escalating to a point where Hitler's actually saying, it's, again, this is not verbatim, but this is essentially what he's saying. It's not what the Jews have done to us. It's not only that what they've done to us, but as I am speaking to you, they are destroying us. They're trying to destroy us. They manipulate Roosevelt. They manipulate Churchill. He calls the Soviet Union the seat of the Judeo-Bolshevik menace. Communism is a Jewish device to enslave the world. That's what he believes. Now, why he comes to believe it, that we're not sure
But
of.
you know what's amazing, Susan? I saw an exhibit at the Holocaust Museum. It was called Deception. And it really reflected that period of history where Hitler and the concept changed the perception of the entire German population through radio, through propaganda. I mean, they believed everything.
Yes, he has control of everything. He's not the only one to do this. Stalin had it in the Soviet Union. If one controls the media, or it passes for the media at the time, motion pictures, the radio, there was also some television even in Germany at that time. At the Olympic Games, they had some television. Yeah, a child gets brought up 5 years old, and then goes to a summer camp, then goes to after-school programs, and is indoctrinated with the idea that the Jews are destroying us. And if we do not destroy them, including their children will grow up and they will destroy us.
Yeah. Talk about the ordinary people that became members of the army and had an opportunity to renege on killing the Jews,
and yet they jumped in
to stay.
All right, we know not everybody participated in the killing of Jews, but fairly large numbers of people did. If we went to Germany today, there would be no, unless you get the crazies out there, there would be no denial of the Holocaust. Everybody knows Germany was responsible for the killing of 6 million Jews and millions upon millions of other people as well. The myth in Germany, at least for some Germans, is yes, that took place and that was done by the party and the SS. But those gallant soldiers of ours in the Wehrmacht, the German army, they had no hand in this, and that is simply nonsense. You are quite right. Ordinary German soldiers participated in this, but this goes to the heart of what we were talking about before. If you're, let's say, between 18 and 25, let's say 1941 or 42, you grew up under the Nazis. And that propaganda was very, very effective. You want an example of the, if I may, a good example is propaganda. There was a battalion, a German police battalion, that ultimately was responsible for the death of 90,000 Jews. And in this police battalion, as many battalions had, virtually all of them, there was a doctor. And one of the doctor's jobs was to show the German soldiers in the police battalion, if a Jewish woman is holding a child, where do you shoot the child. So the bullet goes through the child and the woman simultaneously, so you don't have to do 2 killings, which is a psychological
Save a
burden,
bullet.
and you save a bullet.
Oh, God.
And when the war is over, he's interrogated. And the interrogator asks him, "You're a doctor. You've been trained to save lives. How could you do this?" And he said, what my doctor friends say is absolutely correct. He says, "I'm a battlefield surgeon." He said, "If a soldier is wounded in a limb and gangrene sets in the limb and you cannot control the limb, you cannot control the gangrene, you amputate the limb, which is good medicine." Second sentence, the Jews are the gangrene of society. They had to be amputated. That's ideology.
Well, you know something that's horrifying? You know, we live in a world today that is so complex, and there's such hatred, and there's such unrest in so many parts of the world. I mean, they don't embrace other people's differences. They hate them. And perception is 95% of reality. I mean, they believe all this
Absolutely right.
stuff. But what about the young people that are coming into your class? You have an opportunity, in a sense, maybe to open up what maybe they knew very little about.
I like to think that I do.
Yeah.
The class is very large.
It's also extraordinarily popular.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
that
the
is.
most popular.
Yeah, it's a popular course for a number of reasons, 2 of which are the Holocaust. People are interested in the Holocaust. And the other is my colleagues like to teach small classes, and I feel my job, whoever wants to take my course, I let into the class. Now, on one occasion, I don't know how it came up, I never did it before and I never did it since. I asked the students how many of them were not Jewish, and more than half of the class raised their hands.
Really?
That's
So people
interesting.
are interested in the Holocaust. And I like to think that I open their horizons, as they say, and so on. But I must tell you, the most difficult problem, I can tell you over the years, and I have to watch myself, is in the beginning of the class when I talk about Christian culpability. Because I am among those, and I think most historians would agree, that the church, and not only the Catholic Church, but the Protestant denominations, did in fact plant seeds that could be exploited and were exploited by the Nazis. The idea that the Jews killed Jesus. This is powerful stuff. This is very, very powerful stuff. And then the demonization and dehumanization of the Jewish people. Literally dehumanization. They have horns, they have tails, their sexual appetites are different from others. And I tell the class, actually, that for an American, what I'm saying to you should not sound strange. Because look what we've done to African Americans. Look at the way we've demonized them and dehumanized them. In another period of time, no one would say it now, but in another period of time, people would say that blacks were mentally inferior, intellectually inferior, morally inferior, sexually voracious, and so on. It was all nonsense. But that's the way the American people, large numbers of Americans, demonized and dehumanized African Americans. That was what was happening to the Jewish people in Europe for almost 2,000 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the remainder of our program right after this brief message.
When I was young, I went to Jewish summer camp, traveled to Israel, and participated in leadership development groups. Today I'm teaching my children that being part of the Jewish community helps keep our heritage and traditions alive and vibrant, and can be fulfilling, exciting, and fun.
At the age of 90, I started a second career, delivering meals to homebound seniors. Because I'm a senior myself, I know how tough it can get. If somebody is in trouble and needs help, we need to be there for them. As Jews, it's who we are. It's what we do.
When my family needed help, we turned to the Federation, and they were there for us. How good it was for us to know that we are not alone.
Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together. What if you could change the world? You can. We can do it together. With the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, you are here, and we are all connected. Together, we can enrich Jewish life, care for vulnerable populations, and build global Jewish community. That's what we do, every day, here at home and around the globe.
Welcome back to Mosaic. Prior to the break, we were talking about the injustice, the pure injustice of people, and how they didn't respond, and how we discussed the fact that the opposite of love is not hate, the opposite of love is indifference. And indifference has created a tremendous problem. You wanted to ask another question.
I did. I wanted to ask you about some righteous Christians during World War II. It wasn't easy to protect Jews during that period.
That's absolutely correct. In
Yeah.
Eastern Europe in particular, certainly in German-occupied Poland, the penalty for sheltering a Jew is death.
Mm-hmm.
And very often death for you and for the family and the loss of your property. These people were real heroes and heroines. There should have been more of them, but one can understand the circumstances. Two things I will tell you. One is that I tell the class, I try to be as honest as I can. If I were a Polish Catholic during the war, and a Jewish, I know what I would not do. I would not rape a Jewish woman. I would not betray the Jews. I would not kill a Jew. But in all honesty, if a Jew came to me and said, would you shelter me and my family for the duration of this terrible war?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I would, given the fact, given the tremendous risks. And that's why these people that you're talking about, whether they're in Poland and France, all over, there were thousands of people that did act to shelter Jews.
They were really heroes.
These are real heroes. And I tell the students, in the very last lecture I give them, I tell them, we've cheapened the words hero, heroine, and heroism. We make a great athlete a hero, a great entertainer a heroine, and so on. These people are not. They deserve exactly what they get. They do. They may receive large sums of money. They have trained all their lives. They give a lot of dedication. But they didn't. They've risked, again, the time. They've paid the time. But the heroes and heroines that I'm talking about, they risked their lives to save Jews. These are the real heroes. I give them an example. I don't want to be melodramatic. I tell them, you study the war, not only the Holocaust. You're in a Higgins boat going towards Omaha Beach, and you see the German shells plunking off the water, machine gun bullets, and the sergeant says, ramp goes down, 30 seconds. You charge into that fire. That's heroism. These people that you're talking about, the ones that save Jews, I mean, they're heroes and heroines.
Oh, yeah.
And the survivors themselves, the people who saw things that no human being should see, the people who lost so much. Not every survivor is a success story. Some people never recover from this. But those that manage to put their lives together, marry again, have new families, be contributing citizens in our country, in Israel and other places, these are real heroes and heroines too. Now, the other aspect that I wanted to say to you is, just as I told you, that we don't know why Hitler was Hitler. There have been studies as to who are these righteous Gentiles? Why did they do what they did? Mm-hmm. And the honest answer is we're not sure. Because some people are actually motivated by religion. Their view of Christianity is you've got to help. These are people in trouble. You've got to help them. Some people of a more fundamentalist bent argue the Jews are the apple of God's eye. And like some evangelicals today in the United States, take some passages in the book of Genesis when God says to Abraham, those who curse you will be cursed, those who bless you will be blessed. Some of these people take these things very seriously. And for others it's Christian charity. But there are many people out there that they were Christian by birth, but they really weren't. They didn't go to church or anything like this. Some of them had their own sense of moral code. You can't let innocent people, men, women, and children die. You help them. And some, for fairness, has to say, some of it is left-wing politics. Some of them look at the Jews as an oppressed people, and the Communist Party and socialist parties have to help them, and so on. So it's a mixture. There's no rule of thumb here. People did act for a variety of reasons. And some people, again, will act to save Jews, even though it's risky, for money.
You know, it's interesting. How many of the students that you taught were shocked and enlightened and, I don't know, changed by the opportunity to learn about this?
I honestly cannot tell you that. I can tell you that over the years, I'm teaching 47 years, probably teaching the Holocaust for 35 years.
Right.
There are people over the years who come to me and say, this course changed my life.
I bet.
Yeah, for some.
Yeah.
For some. Remember, I also show a number of films in the class, and the visual impact is
So
tremendous.
powerful. There's an article in, there was recently, I think it was in the Times, I'm not sure, about the concern that the survivors who are so wonderful when they go around and speak about their experience are dying out. And they're very worried that there won't be the passion and people will not be able to understand, kids won't have that first-hand experience.
They're
So
right.
courses like yours.
I bring a Holocaust survivor into my class. Sometimes I bring 2, sometimes I bring 3. These people are the voice of authenticity. There's no question. But history doesn't belong to them. The Holocaust does not belong to them. They're going to die, as we all are going to die. In 10, 15 years, there won't be any Holocaust survivors left. So it belongs to the historians, and it's our job, and people who come after me, to do the best that they can explicating the Holocaust, which is very difficult to do.
You put together a 6-part series, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Explain
did.
that.
That's 6 DVDs
Yeah.
about the Holocaust,
About the
the most
Holocaust,
salient,
yeah.
the most important aspects of the Holocaust. That is absolutely correct.
And what about today? Anti-Semitism is now also anti-Israelism.
Yes, it is.
Unfortunately. And how do we deal with this?
You have to fight them. Every jackass that makes idiotic statements about Jews or about Israel should be confronted, whether it is face-to-face, whether someone says something stupid on a radio talk-in show. There should be people that counter that. If someone writes an letter to the editor, excuse me, that should be answered for sure. What has happened is that the attacks on Israel allow the anti-Semites to come out of the woodwork because they can cover their anti-Semitism, their hostility to Jews, which is still, you look like a bigot if you do that, but you don't look like a bigot when you attack Israel. How do you know when it's crossing the line into anti-Semitism? And the answer is, first of all, it looks like an anti-Semite, sounds like an anti-Semite, it is an anti-Semite. So when Israelis are, let us say, compared to Nazis, that's bad stuff. When Israel is singled out, for example, this American Association of Scholars, for example, condemning Israel. One of the dumbest statements
That was awful.
One of the dumbest statements I've ever heard is the president of the organization, I believe, was asked, I mean, China persecutes intellectuals. Putin is killed. In Russia, opponents of Putin are killed. In Syria, maybe 130,000 people are killed, have been killed. Why did you single out Israel? And this idiot, he answers, we have to start somewhere. I mean, that has got to be major league dumb.
You know, when you think about it, Susan, we're 0.025% of the world's population. Yet everything that is wrong in many countries around the world blame us for that.
That's anti-Semitism.
It's
That's
scary.
anti-Semitism.
No, but you
It is
wrote a
scary.
book, I have to tell you, The Year of the Crisis, Year of Hope. This is the pogrom in 1881, and you're talking about what took place in the Soviet Union and
Russia.
And Russia, the former Soviet Union. It's unbelievable. It's the same thing.
Look, Robert Wistrich, who is probably the world's leading authority on anti-Semitism, uses the expression, anti-Semitism is the longest hatred.
Yeah.
It goes back a long way. It has to do with a number of things. One that we started the conversation with, and that is that Christian anti-Judaism is important. And so too is the differentness of the Jewish people. We are different in many ways. And we know you don't have to be a Sigmund Freud to understand that people abhor those who are different in many, many ways. We see it in the playground with children. Heaven help the kid who is different from the majority in one way or another.
Okay, so how are we going to change this? How are we going to make? How can we improve it? What can we do?
It has been improved. It has been improved.
Speak out.
You speak up, but it has been improved. Look, the anti-Semitism, I'll put it another way. Plato once said, only the dead have seen the last of war. Only dead Jews have seen the last of anti-Semitism. It will be with us till the end of time. There's just no way out of it. But the question about anti-Semitism is not whether or not it exists, but whether it exists in a magnitude large enough to present a physical threat to ourselves or impedes our movement in society. And in the United States, look, are there anti-Semites here? Of course there are. In France, in Britain, Scandinavia, of course there are problems. There are some problems. But it's much different than it was in Europe in an earlier period of time. You've got to point out that it's bigotry. And people don't like to be called bigots. You've got to point out that it is bigotry. And also indicate to them that they're going along a very, very dangerous road, a really slippery slope. Because hatred and contempt for one group of people, in today's world it would be, again, I would say it as I say to the kids, it's not only Jews, not only blacks, not only Latinos, it's gays, lesbians. These people, you begin to talk in a hostile language about them, make fun of them, you're moving down that slippery slope, and the next step is physical violence. That's what's got to be pointed out.
So they have to have a responsibility.
And they have a responsibility to speak out. It's not enough, I tell the young people, it's not enough if you hear, whether it's an anti-Semitic joke or an anti-black joke or an anti-gay joke, it's not enough not to laugh. You got to say something. You've got to speak out.
Well, I have to tell you something. I guess you were very lucky. We're lucky to have you speaking out. It's such a pleasure.
Thank
really.
you very
and the
much.
students are so lucky
Thank
to have
you as
you,
well.
Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure. A
And
privilege.
thank you for being with us as well. Be with us again next week when we have another look into the Jewish world. Goodbye from Mosaic.
What if you could change the world? You can. We can do it together. Federation and you. Changing the world together.